That is how you bounce back, football fans. That is how you bounce back. The Seahawks, after a terrible, terrible 30-13 loss to the Lions last week, bounced back in this one against a team that just beat the Chiefs, the defending Super Bowl champions. Patrick Mahomes just beat them on opening night at Kansas City. They bounce back and they win this one at Detroit, 37-31, with a walk-off touchdown in Detroit by Tyler Lockett. Just the ageless one, the one that after the game, Pete Carroll was talking about how he wishes Tyler Lockett could just play forever, just keep playing. And I agree, because he continues to show up in these big moments. What a game by the Seahawks here. We'll start by talking about the offense. This team, sometimes what they do is they'll start strong, and it'll often be Geno to DK like they did last week. And then they'll go the entire game doing nothing. And then they'll finish the game strong like they did last week. They had that pattern. But this game, they kept their foot on the pedal, and they kept it up the entire game. What a game by Geno Smith. 32 for 41, 328 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's the guy that was an MVP candidate last year. We saw it finally. They gave the ball more to Kenneth Walker, which I said last week that they should do. Even though the stat line, the rushing stat line doesn't look amazing. It's 17 carries for 43 yards, but 2 touchdowns. And he also had a catch for 11 yards. And if you saw this game, you know that his impact on the game was bigger than that stat line shows. Had some great runs. You know, that touchdown run to bounce it out and bounce it back in for the touchdown, incredible play. And he had also a very similar play, I think, either on the last drive in the fourth quarter or the drive in overtime, bounced it back in. And, you know, very Barry Sanders-esque on the day that Barry Sanders has a statue unveiled to him in Detroit, ironically. That was a very Barry Sanders-esque type play. Geno Smith got out of the pocket when he needed to, 3 rushes, 20 yards. Zach Charbonnet looked good. He still is trucking people out there. 4 carries for 16 yards, but they looked good. They looked good. And two catches for 14 yards as well for Zach Charbonnet. Good game for him. And the ball was spread around in this one. DK Metcalf, six catches, 75 yards. And the most impressive thing about DK in this one, fought through an injury. Had a rib injury on the first drive of the game, but stuck it out and made some big catches in the fourth quarter and overtime and really helped them secure this win. Really proud of DK in this one, the resilience, some of the maturity, didn't, go crazy and get emotional like he did in the last one. Tyler Lockett, 5 catches, 59 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Caught both of Geno Smith's touchdowns, and I tell you what, both of them were beauties. Both of them were beauties. That one where he lofted it up. I mean, the connection between Geno Smith and Tyler Lockett in some of these passes, going back to last year, and even last year, I think it was either in the Saints game or the Lions game, they hooked up for some great, great touchdowns. Man, just floated it to him perfectly. And that's the picture on this on the avatar here for the or the, what do they call it, the thumbnail for this one is his first touchdown, but the second touchdown is the one that won it, where he dived for the pylon in overtime for the game winner. Just gutsy play. Loved it. Another big part of this game that I love to see that they didn't do last game, and I remember old Norbcamp brought it up, is the involvement of the tight ends. Noah Fant, big late in this game and throughout this game, 4 catches, 56 yards. Colby Parkinson, 2 catches, 41 yards, and Will Dissly, 3 catches, 35 yards. I remember in the last one, it was, well, they didn't really complete a lot of them, but it just seemed like they were just focusing on the wide receivers last game. It was a lot of maybe just attempts to Lockett, attempts to DK, but not really involving the tight ends very much, and not really running the ball very much because they were down in that game. But they got everyone involved in this one. Really got to see it. And even Jackson Smith and Jigbo got 5 catches, only for 34 yards. They tried to force feed it to him a little bit. They tried to do that thing, that screen stuff to him. Didn't really work as well. Jake Bobo, 1 catch for 3 yards. That's a guy that gets open. That you left some meat on the bone with Jake Bobo for sure. So he can be involved more. So, and as we continue to talk about the battle of the Seahawks offense versus the Detroit defense, you have to mention that Geno Smith almost threw a pick six to Joseph here. I mean, Joseph really just dropped a pick six that Geno Smith gifted to him, and so we were lucky for that. He had that was his pass deflection. The real star of the Lions defense here, who obviously did not play very well, giving up 37 points in this one. Alex Anzalone had the lone sack of the game for the Detroit Lions. Aiden Hutchison had a pass deflection, and of course, everyone's going to be crying about that holding call or what people thought was a holding call at the end. It wasn't that egregious, I don't think. And if you're at home and your favorites in the game and you give up all those points, you can hold these nuts, as I have told several people already so far. The Seahawks really won this one. They really deserve this one. And big shout out to the Seahawks offensive line. On a day where you were missing your tackles, your starting rookie tackles, your star tackles, your highly drafted tackles, Stone Forsythe and Jake Curhan, the guys that were under a lot of pressure to do well, the substitutes, the backups, there were a lot of pressure to do well, including from me, really showed up and only allowed 1 QB hit and 1 sack in this game. Tremendous game for the unheralded Seahawks offensive line. So well done by them. Now, on the other side of the ball, the Lions offense. Jared Goff had a good game as well, very similar to Geno. Over 300 yards. They had about the same number of passing yards, 323 yards. And Jared Goff had 3 touchdowns, but he had 1 pick. And that 1 pick was the most important pick of the game. It was a pick six to the story of this game. Tre Brown, a guy that I said was playing for his job, but actually lost his job because this was Tariq Woolen and Devin Witherspoon, the rookie, on either side, starting at quarterback, and Tariq Woolen got injured. Football is a tough game. It's a violent game. You're going to lose people. You just hope you don't lose your best players. Tariq Woolen is one of our best players. I hope he bounces back. But the reason why Tre Brown was in this game was because of the Tariq Woolen injury. And he had the game of his life. He was fighting for his freaking job on the Seahawks here. Like I said last week, he was fighting for his job, and he had the game of his life, including a pick six here. The first, by the way, interception thrown by Jared Goff in 400 passes. Just incredible. I mean, Jared Goff and these Lions, while we're here talking about them, they just seem to be the Seahawks' best friend, whether it's when we're playing against them, even when they're a good team. We just seem to get big wins over them over the years. You think about that Cam Chancellor punch when they were about to win the game years ago. You talk about last year, they had a big win over them. Talk about this year, of course, today, big win, but also they help us out. Last year, they're the reason we got into the playoffs, to win in the Lambeau, and they beat the Packers for us. And they had big wins against other teams that we need them to beat. I mean, and also them beating the Chiefs. How impressive was that? And I'm seeing the attendance here at Ford Field, 66,000. This was over capacity. So this was a sold-out crowd for them. But going back to the Tre Brown game, he had a sack. He had 2 pass deflections, and he had the pick six in this one. And not only that, but he had one of the forced fumbles in this one as well. And that's one of the defects of ESPN box score. They don't show it. Fox Sports does. But he had a forced fumble in this one as well. So a sack, 2 pass deflections, a pick six, and a forced fumble. The player of the game was Tre Brown, the substitute. Tre Brown, the backup, the guy that came in. So kudos to Tre Brown. Wow, what a game! You really can't say enough about him. Um, Going back to things that are coming into to form on the Lions offense, it looks like uh, David Montgomery is going to be the workhorse, and he was the starter on the depth chart before the season, and it's really manifesting itself. It's 16 carries for 67 yards and a touchdown for David Montgomery. He also lost the fumble. But Jahmyr Gibbs is very much so the clear backup here. I thought he was going to do a lot better. He had 7 carries for 17 yards. That's 2.4 yards a carry. They're getting him involved in in the passing game. He had 7 catches for 39 yards. That's more catches than anyone, but the fewest average yards per catch at only 5.6. I thought Jahmyr Gibbs was going to be a lot more explosive for this team. It's kind of a surprise for me. If this doesn't pick up for Jahmyr Gibbs, who is supposed to be a weapon for them, I think they could face some issues. But the bread and butter of this team is their passing game. And as you look at the things that the Seahawks do well and that they don't do well, it's defending the pass that they don't do well. And the Lions predictably carved them up, and they were led by their main man, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 6 catches, 102 yards. And he is who I described before the season as, Tyler Lockett 2.0, Tyler Lockett on steroids, Tyler Lockett par excellence, whatever you want to call it. He's an incredible receiver, incredible possession receiver. He is a great slot receiver. I mean, he's great everywhere. He's one of the premier receivers in the league. He is a Cooper Kupp type. Great game for him. And they have some other good receivers as well. Josh Reynolds and Khalif Raymond. Josh Reynolds caught 2 of the touchdowns, 5 catches, 66 yards. Khalif Raymond, 2 catches, 46 yards, and one of the touchdowns. And Sam Laporta seems to be the guy that's emerging, the rookie tight end here, 5 catches, 63 yards. And like I mentioned before, the Seahawks, if you're analyzing their defense, is a team that continues to struggle in that zone defense with primarily their linebackers in coverage and their defensive backs. You saw so many plays again today where there was a lapse in coverage and trying to determine who was going where. Devin Witherspoon he's a rookie, of course. He's going to have issues, but he was beat on, I think, one of the touchdowns. He's going to have to learn to communicate. And there's, Jamal Adams was back in this one. And so you're going to maybe have some gelling that needs to go on with some of the players as they, you're going to have that communication, because what we saw a lot last week, and again, shout out to Norb Kim, who brought on Sky High Aviation. That kid really knows what he's talking about. Broke down some film and showed why the defense faltered last week. And it's because of the lack of synergy, where in a zone, you're basically calling people, you're pointing to people to try to say, okay, he is out of my zone, now go catch him. But the problem with that is the defensive backs and the linebackers in coverage are looking at the quarterback's eyes, so they're not really seeing their teammates pointing to see where they're supposed to. They're pushing off the receivers onto other people. So that doesn't work unless you have an awareness of what your zone is and when somebody's being passed off to you. So they're going to have to continue to work on that. They did not do that well in this game. However, and thankfully, and this is the prowess, this is the strength of the Seahawks throughout the year. They come up with big plays in big moments in close games. And those forced fumbles, those 2 forced fumbles, that interception, the sack. I mean, in the first half, I didn't really see much. I thought Draymond Jones, the big signing, didn't do much, but he ended up with a sack in this game. And the only other sack other than Tre Brown in this one. uh, Uchenna Nwosu had a forced fumble, and that was recovered by Jaron Reed. So great job by them. And the Lions went for it quite a bit on fourth down. They had that great play design to Amon-Ra that did convert, but there was other ones that didn't convert. Um, so coming up with those big stops on fourth down, coming up with those big stops when they mattered. I mean, the Lions were about to march down the field and score and win that game when it was 31-28 at the end of the fourth quarter. But the Seahawks really locked down in the big moment and prevented them from winning and just held them to a field goal. So that was massive. So big plays. I'm thankful the Seahawks still make them. And the thing that they just need to work on now. So basically, I think pass rush is incrementally getting better. It wasn't great today, but it is incrementally getting better. Big plays, they're keeping those up. They are, you won the turnover battle, which is huge for Pete Carroll. So you have the big plays. You are incrementally getting better in the pass rush, and you are preventing, of course, the two high safeties. Pete Carroll, the whole thing is prevent the deep play so that you just have the underneath stuff that's converted. But really, death by 1,000 paper cuts is what beat you last week against the Rams. So that's the last part of the defense that needs to come together with the Seahawks. And that comes through synergy. So as Jamal Adams comes back, as Devin Witherspoon becomes accustomed to it, I mean, Quandre Diggs and Tariq Woolen, hopefully he's okay, should have that kind of synergy as well as Tre Brown. But it needs to come together. I mean, they really need to. And Julian Love. I mean, shout out to Julian Love. Played a little bit better in this one. Did get beat still, but led the team in solo tackles with 10. But that's the part of it, the middle of the field that needs to come together. And a team like the Rams that is excellent at that, and they'll beat you. So that's the last portion of this defense that needs to come together. So, kind of a mixed game for the defense. You give up 31 points, you're not really usually going to win, but an exceptional game by the offense. And we'll close it out here with the special teams. And we got to bring this up. Jason Myers missed 2 of 3 field goals, and one of them was a horrible miss, just not even close. And the second one was also wide. It was a little bit closer, but this is a position where you are going off of confidence. And it seems like, he did make the one at the, I guess maybe in the middle or towards the end. So he did make 5 kicks, 4 of them were extra points. But this is something to keep on our radar here. Jason Myers, I think they signed him to a little bit of a significant deal. So Jason Myers needs to ramp it up, and the coaching staff needs to instill some confidence in this guy somehow in practice, simulate some tough situations in practice so that he doesn't miss these again. Solid game by the punter again, Michael Dixon. 2 kicks inside the 20. That's really all you want. They had 2 of his 3 kicks inside the 20. That's all you can really ask for here. And that was the story of this game. The Seahawks prevail in an exciting game that could have gone either way. If they would have lost this one, I would have been in freaking shambles. And Clint Hurt, you really avoided my ire in this one because they somehow managed to win this game. And Tre Brown, player of the game, impressive performance to save your job, man. Well done. DK Metcalf, another stand-up player in this one, to fight through that injury, that rib injury, to stay in this one. You get a game ball as well. And next week, who do they play next week? Sorry for this dead air here. I want to see the Seahawks play next week. The Seahawks. No, not the Atlanta Hawks. I want the Seahawks. They play the Panthers next week, so that should be a win. Go out and blow out the Panthers next week. Great overtime win. Thank you, Lockett, for continuing to be the freaking steady force that you are. Tariq Woolen, wish you well. tackles. I hope you come back. But you know what? Stone Forsythe and Jake Curran, if you guys can keep this up, then those rookie or their second-year tackles can take their time in coming back. Great win by the Seahawks. And this will also be recorded if you're listening on a podcast platform. Subscribe to us on Spotify and any of the other podcast platforms. Greatly appreciated. Find us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook. Till next time, great win by the Hawks. Go Hawks.